I did some research, I did some extensive thinking and finally decided Ufotable anime looks very good. Pretty much always. From the shows everybody knows about, such as Demon Slayer and Fate, to the shows less people know about but are still popular, such as Kara no Kyokai, and shows most people are not aware of, like God Eater or Tales of Zestria. All these shows have something in common. That being all of them look like the entire annual revenue of every country in the world was pooled into making them. Why does it look so good? We will be trying to answer that very question in this video. Ufotable animation is not always that good. It's by no means bad or average, but it's not the best bits of 2D Sakuga you will ever see. There's a difference between visuals, which Ufotable excels at, and actual animation, which is only a part of the broader term that is visuals. Weaving past the Unlimited Bladeworks memes and uneducated guesses, let's break down Ufotable's visuals. Like and subscribe if you enjoy. I can't come up with a funny bit here, and let's get started. Use of CGI. Ufotable very obviously uses a lot of CGI, a lot of it literally visible on screen, from objects to backgrounds and sometimes even living entities and fluids. Please Ufotable, stop doing the blood CGI, that looks awful. That's the only thing you people produce that looks proper bad. What you may not know, however, is that it's far from the only CGI they use. You may have noticed a lot of rotation shots in their shows. This is because they map the shot out in 3D first using a basic human model. They are nice enough to release production materials so we can get a better look at how it's done. It starts with a model doing the movement, which is substituted by 2D animation, followed by compositing. This allows for a certain complexity in their shots, making them feel more dynamic. It also allows them to have multiple things going on at the same time. When this style is integrated into the other 3D elements on the screen, it makes their shots stand out from other studios with how cinematic, dynamic, and just how pretty looking they are. This technique is crucial and what I believe to be one of the reasons why Ufotable could carve out a unique visual identity for themselves. Back during the Kara no Kyokai era from 2007 onwards, you'll notice a lot more traditional animation with smear frames and stuff like that, as they hadn't perfected this style at that point. You can, however, see a prototype of this style being used. Although it hasn't aged well, it's scenes like this that have paved the way for scenes like this down the line. Initially they used 3D landscapes and backgrounds as a way of making up for their lack of background animators, but that too became an integral part of their visual identity, perfectly accompanying the 3D entities on the screen and the characters drawn over CGI models. This unique use of CGI is one of the most important features, contributing towards their top tier visuals and makes up the actual movement part of it. Effects animation. Hope I don't need to explain this one. It's the flashy stuff you see on screen. The best 2D effects animations at Ufotable is often done by animator Nozomu Abe, especially on the action bits, such as this, and more. Of course, these effects animations wouldn't be nearly as good if not for the compositing, but we'll get into that in a bit. Ufotable has phenomenal effects animation, sometimes integrated with CGI elements as well. This also somewhat helps to draw attention away from the fact that Ufotable characters are generally fairly plain looking, with no insane amount of line work or anything like that, but you don't even notice that because the effects look so good. The effects, however, are not often hand-drawn but rather added in post-production and are digitally generated. This includes sparks, flames, and similar stuff. They accentuate the CGI and get accentuated by the compositing. These effect animations are the backbone of Ufotable's action that is so well known today. The compositing. We need to understand a simple thing, the concept of compositing. Now I'll explain this in the simplest way possible. Anime is hand-drawn except for when it's not, and this is how the final hand-drawn version looks like, and this is how the final product you actually see looks like. Everything that happens in order to transform this to this basically falls under compositing. There's a bit more to it than that, but knowing this much should be enough to understand my points. This basically involves color, digital effects, integration of CGI, integrating different layers of post-production and animation to produce the final scene. Ufotable has the best compositing in the anime industry, better than every other studio by a decent margin. There are many different elements to it. They handle the CGI by perfectly synchronizing it with the 2D meticulously frame by frame. They improve the effects animation by adding amazing colors, color gradients, and lighting to accompany it. They add Lord knows how many layers of post-production to make their shows and individual scenes look the way they do. As the characters are based off CG models as we saw earlier, they won't have smears as it would be very tricky to add them. So they strategically use blur to hide the always on model characters and give the illusion of motion blur. It's hard to know every technique they use, you'd have to sit and observe them work for that, but these are definitely some of them. The compositing is an often overlooked aspect of anime otherwise, but Ufotable takes that and makes it the strongest part of their visuals. I have seen so many wonderful keyframes get ruined by bad composite, but Ufotable takes what isn't always the best art and improves it tenfolds with their compositing techniques. Like, look at that like lighting. How do you do that, Ufotable? Teach me. This is the step that brings all the individual elements of the visuals together and needs a lot of coordination, and Ufotable has that. We'll discuss that in the next segment, but their composite, art direction, department of photography, whatever you wanna call it, is the best of its kind and improves the overall quality so much. Work environment. So far we have talked about the actual elements of the visuals. Let's have a chat about the conditions that make them possible. Ufotable is one of the, if not the most organized studio out there, and nearly everything you see is produced in-house. From the digital team to the actual producers and animators, all work for the same studio and under the same roof, which allows for better communication and coordination amongst the staff. One of the reasons why the compositing is as good as it is. This is extremely rare as most studios work by hiring freelancers or outsourcing stuff to other studios. The in-house style of Ufotable also allows them to keep the expenses to a minimum, as outsourcing is often more expensive. This also helps maintain a consistent visual look, as the same people who worked on one show will also work on the next one. They aren't contracted for a show, they work at the studio itself and will pitch in every show to some degree. They are also very well aware of what, and most importantly how much, they can and can't produce, never biting off more than they can chew by taking up too much work. Well, God Eater was an exception, the production crashed for that, but they generally take their time and produce the best quality of work possible. Is money an important factor? No. The unlimited budget works meme has no basis in reality. It's actually quite infuriating to see people reduce the efforts of these talented people by crediting it all to money. There literally has been instances where Ufotable executives had said that they didn't have the required money for a show. Even the recent tax evasion fiasco was supposedly done to flow a little bit more money into the animation industry. Ufotable is a studio that was way ahead of its time and still is, thinking of techniques and styles of anime production that no one else even considered, and as a result producing work superior looking when compared to anyone else. They have a unique model of operation which, at least to some degree, helps combat the overworking and underpaying nature of the Japanese anime industry. Whenever a new Ufotable anime gets announced, people sit up, because they know what sort of quality they can expect, and every time Ufotable manages to outdo themselves. It's truly a remarkable thing. So that was it. Did you learn something? Did you enjoy the video? Well, like and subscribe then, you lazy sods. I love and hate British insults. Anyways, until next time.